The first shot cracked through the night, a bullet sparking off the steel side of the trailer. The massive rig thundered down the desert highway, headlights carving through the darkness, while the echo of gunfire rolled into the endless silence around it. Midnight, empty road. Nothing but sand, asphalt, and the sudden, ruthless sound of an ambush. Inside the cab, the driver gripped the wheel tight, knuckles white against the leather. He was in his 30s, weathered by years on the road, the kind of man who knew every bend and mile marker better than his own reflection. Hauling freight wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. And tonight, all he wanted was to reach his drop before dawn. But fate had other plans. It began with a flicker in the mirror, 2 headlights, then 4. Then an entire fleet appearing out of nowhere, shadows stretching long across the blacktop. A black SUV slid up on his left, so close he could see the gloved hands gripping its wheel. Another vehicle braked hard in front, boxing him in, and then came the roar of motorcycles, engines howling as they swarmed like wolves around a wounded beast. That's when the first strike came. A biker pulled alongside, leaned in, and smashed his side mirror clean off with a crowbar. Shards glittered in the wind before scattering into the dark. The driver's jaw tightened. This wasn't random road rage. This was a hijacking. He reached for the CB, nothing but static. His phone, no signal. They had jammed the lines. Whoever these people were, they had planned it well. Out here, miles from the nearest town, there would be no help. It was him, his truck, and whatever was in that trailer. Another biker lunged, jumping for the ladder welded to the trailer's side. The driver swerved hard. The man slammed against steel, barely hanging on, his boots scraping sparks against the road before he dragged himself upward. Another rider scraped alongside, his handlebars grinding against the trailer in a shower of sparks. And then came the gunfire. Sharp, ruthless. Bullets ripped into the trailer, punching jagged holes through the steel. The leader leaned out the window of the front SUV, pistol raised, shouting commands the driver couldn't hear over the roar of engines. They weren't improvising. This was organized, precise, professional. But the driver wasn't about to roll over. He shoved the gear stick forward, the engine bellowing as 40 tons of steel lunged ahead. The truck became a battering ram, scattering the motorcycles that darted too close. One rider lost control, clipping the guardrail before spinning out, sparks showering the asphalt as he tumbled violently across the road. Another tried climbing onto the cab, but the driver swung the wheel, slamming him against the trailer wall until he dropped back into the dark. Still, they kept coming. Up ahead, the road funneled into a construction zone. Concrete barriers narrowed the lanes, squeezing everything into a tight, merciless corridor. The driver's eyes narrowed. This was his chance. He kept the rig steady, grinding the trailer against the barrier, sparks flying in a cascade. An SUV tried to match his move, but there wasn't room. Steel screamed against concrete, tires locked. The vehicle flipped sideways in a violent roll, crashing into the wall. A motorcycle swerved too late and vanished into the wreck. The night lit up in fire and twisted metal. For a moment, it seemed the tide had broken, but then a heavy thud slammed against the cab roof. Boots hammered on steel, the windshield spiderwebbed, cracks spreading fast as the glass gave way under repeated blows. And then, with a burst of shattered glass, the leader dropped inside. His eyes were cold, sharp, focused. A pistol glinted in his hand. The cab became a war zone. The truck swerved violently as fists met flesh, elbows slammed against metal. The steering wheel jerked with every desperate strike. At 70 miles an hour, the cab was barely controllable. The driver swung with raw desperation, fighting for every inch, steering with one hand while hammering back with the other. The leader lunged, trying to rip him from the seat, but the driver braced his boots against the floor, gritted his teeth, and slammed the brakes. Momentum did the rest. The intruder flew forward, crashing through the jagged windshield, landing directly in the path of his own SUV. The vehicle struck him in a sickening collision, flipping end over end before exploding against the barrier. Fire rolled into the night sky, and then there was silence. The highway behind him was a graveyard of wreckage, burning SUVs, twisted motorcycles, shadows still flickering in the flames. His body ached, bruised and bloodied, but his grip on the wheel didn't falter. The cargo was secure. The rig was still moving. And as sirens finally whispered across the horizon, faint but growing, the driver pressed his foot to the pedal and muttered under his breath, "Cargo delivered." The truck rolled on into the night, a lone titan of steel, leaving behind the ruins of an ambush that had failed against the one man who refused to stop.